Hello, Pewter people. Scott Reynolds here with another Pewter Pulse. I'm not really a numbers guy. I hate math. I understand that analytics have a place in football, but what I love about the game is that at the root of it, it remains a gladiator sport. Yes, it's a team game, but football is also 11 on 11. It's individual efforts, one on one matchups on each play in the arena. In football, there are real, legit aspects to the game that simply can't be measured with statistics or analytics. I'm talking about emotion, intensity, momentum, and a sheer will to physically beat your opponent into submission. We saw a previously unbeaten Bucs team get punched in the mouth by a desperate winless Broncos team on Sunday in the first quarter, offensively and defensively. And the Bucs didn't punch back, losing in embarrassing fashion 26-7 at home. To me, that exposed what could be a fatal flaw in the roster construction of the 2024 Buccaneers. I'll tell you what that is in just a minute. But first, you're reminded to hit the thumbs up button, give us a like, and also leave a comment. Doing those two things helps us with the YouTube algorithm. It gets us in front of more awesome Bucs fans like yourself and helps our channel grow. So thank you very much. Now, on to what could be a fatal flaw exposed by the Broncos. There is a common denominator in the Bucs Super Bowl teams. I'm talking about the 2002 team and the 2020 Super Bowl champion Buccaneers. Tampa Bay had legit fire starters on both of those teams, physical players who were vocal leaders, but more importantly, could be counted on to deliver momentum swinging plays. In 2002, Warren Sapp was the most badass Buccaneer of all time, terrorizing quarterbacks and coming up with timely sacks. He held the Bucs defense accountable, and the QB killer ruled the locker room with an iron fist. Now, on that same Super Bowl team, safety John Lynch would knock your lights out, and Rondé Barber is pound for pound the toughest Buccaneer of all time, capable of making big plays with sacks, interceptions, or aggressive tackles on third down in nickel defense to force a punt. Now, on the offensive side of the ball back then, Mike Allstott was one of the most quiet Bucs of all time, but he let his play do the talking. And he gave the offense a blue-collar identity. Nobody on offense could bring a crowd to its feet and shift momentum with the single run the way the A-Train could, barreling through defenders. Now, on that 2020 Bucs Super Bowl team, the offense had the fiery Tom Brady at quarterback. LFG, let's go, who elevated the intensity of everyone around him. Pro Bowl center Ryan Jensen was the physical ginger badass who played to and through the whistle to set the tone up front. And on defense, on that Super Bowl team back in 2020, Jason Pierre-Paul and Ndamukong Suh brought plenty of attitude and physicality. JPP was the fire starter who wasn't afraid to get in his teammates' face and hold the defense accountable. The thing these players had in common was when they talked, they could back it up with their play on the field. The problem I see with this Bucs team is that it's lacking some fire starters, guys that shift momentum with their play on the field as well as their fiery leadership style. Unfortunately, that's why the Bucs didn't punch the Broncos back when they took that hit to the face in the first quarter and trailed 14-0. And to me, this could be the fatal flaw with this year's roster. Yes, the Bucs have plenty of talent, and a lot of those guys are nice guys. Jason Light has stocked their roster with Pro Bowlers on both sides of the ball. Yes, this team is tight-knit and sticks together, but there is no Jensen, no JPP, no Sue, no Sapp on this roster to give the team a kick in the ass when it's needed, at least not yet. The Bucs have a couple players that have the potential to become momentum-changing badasses, but those guys weren't on the field on Sunday. I'm talking about Vita Vea, a physical force who has the potential to be a game wrecker with more consistent dominance. He's not in the class of Sue or JPP or Sapp in terms of surliness, but he's the closest the Bucs have up front. Without Vita Vea in the middle against the Broncos, Tampa Bay's interior defensive line got shoved around in embarrassing fashion. Right tackle Luke Gedeke is a nasty offensive lineman, and helps set the tone in the trenches. He's the closest thing the Bucs have to Jensen. And of course, he wasn't out there on Sunday either, dealing with a concussion. But I hope that he becomes the vocal leader of the offensive line the way that Jensen was, even though Jensen was never voted a team captain. Now, Baker Mayfield plays the game with plenty of intensity. Don't get me wrong. That's what the offense feeds off of. But when he had a lousy game on Sunday, well, when your leader isn't playing well and Gedeke sidelined with a concussion, who steps up then? Same thing on the defensive side of the ball. Without Vita Vea, Jordan Whitehead is probably the most physical player on the field for Tampa Bay's defense. But he too played a lousy game against the Broncos. Everyone else on defense looked like they were waiting around for someone else to make the play. And that's the real problem. This generation of 20-somethings is different from the old school players that I grew up watching in the NFL and covering here in Tampa Bay. I think there are far and fewer tough guys, nasty guys in the league today that can truly swing momentum in the team's favor and punch back when necessary, or maybe even deliver a knockout blow to the other team early on. Those guys are becoming harder to find coming out of college for whatever reason. I've had this conversation with Jason Light, and he knows about it. He's fully aware. Remember, he's the guy that traded for JPP, signed Ryan Jensen and Sue and Brady in free agency. He'll keep looking for that possibly missing ingredient this year. So let's hope that we see some more nasty out of guys like Yaya Diaby and Servassier Dennis as they grow and mature as football players. I think those two guys have the potential to be guys that can really punch back and maybe be some vocal leaders with their play and their words. And I like the toughness and fire that Bucky Irving brings after growing up in the south side of Chicago. He's already electrified this home crowd twice this year with big runs in week 1 and week 3. When the crowd chants your name, that's a good thing. So maybe Bucky becomes a fire starter on offense. Maybe Jason Light will find another fire starter or two via trade or free agency or the draft in the offseason. That could be the one thing that's holding this Bucs team back from being a legit Super Bowl contender. We'll see. Time will tell. And time will tell that we're almost on our way to 16,000 subscribers to Pewter Report TV. That's our YouTube channel. You can find more Pewter Pulse videos from yours truly. The Bucs pregame and postgame shows are Pewter pregame and Pewter game day shows, as well as social media content on X, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find that at Pewter Report. And make sure that you visit pewterreport.com for all of the injury news, transactions, game analysis, and game coverage. And I'll be back soon with a new Pewter Pulse.